Welcome to today's video. Over the past months, the war between Ukraine and Russia has led to complex and heartbreaking developments. Recently, one of Russia's worst attacks on the capital Kyiv resulted in dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries. While the international community continues to search for a peaceful solution, the attacks persist, threatening the safety and lives of millions of Ukrainian citizens. U.S. President Donald Trump has spoken out, calling on President Vladimir Putin to stop. But one major issue remains unresolved. Can Ukraine make concessions to achieve peace? And can the world help end this conflict? Today, we'll dive deeper into the current tense situation, the differing perspectives from international leaders, and the impact of the war on the people of Ukraine. Stay with us as we reflect on what's unfolding. Context of the attack and ongoing conflict. In the most devastating attack on Kyiv in the past 9 months, Russian forces launched a heavy assault on the Ukrainian capital. This attack, which involved 70 missiles and 145 drones, was one of the deadliest to date, with a primary objective of applying pressure on Ukraine. The focus was Kyiv, the heart of the country's government, and the symbol of Ukrainian resilience. The aim was clear: destabilize and force Ukraine into submission. The consequences were catastrophic. At least 12 people lost their lives, and 90 others were injured as Russian missiles and drones targeted residential buildings and vital civilian infrastructure. Emergency responders are working around the clock, searching for survivors buried under the debris of collapsed buildings. The scale of destruction has left many families devastated and struggling to pick up the pieces. This attack marks the deadliest assault on Kyiv since July 2024, when a similar attack targeted a hospital and residential area, killing 33 people. The emotional and physical toll on Kyiv's residents is immense. In the early hours of the attack, air raid sirens echoed through the city, a stark reminder of the constant threat the people of Ukraine face. As more details emerge, it becomes clear that the impact extends far beyond the immediate loss of life. The city's infrastructure is severely damaged, disrupting essential services and further straining the country's ability to defend itself against Russian aggression. For Ukrainians, the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about military targets. It's about survival, rebuilding, and maintaining hope in the face of relentless aggression. As Kyiv faces its darkest days, the world watches, questioning how long this war can continue and whether peace is even possible. Reactions from key figures. Donald Trump's response. Former President Donald Trump didn't hold back in his response to Russia's latest attacks on Ukraine. Taking to Truth Social, Trump expressed his discontent, calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop. He emphasized that both Russia and Ukraine ultimately desire peace and urged both sides to come to the negotiating table to end the bloodshed. Trump warned that if Russia's missile strikes continued, something will happen. The message was clear: the U.S. should not sit idly by while the war escalates. However, Trump also criticized Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, particularly on the issue of Crimea. Trump argued that Ukraine's refusal to make concessions on Crimea, which Russia illegally annexed in 2014, was complicating peace talks. He labeled Ukraine's position as an incredible compromise and suggested that it was preventing any real chance of reaching a peaceful resolution. Trump's remarks underline the tension between prioritizing national sovereignty and the need for a negotiated settlement to end the conflict. Volodymyr Zelensky's response. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was quick to respond to Russia's ongoing attacks, condemning them as an attempt by Putin to pressure the West, especially the U.S., into forcing Ukraine into submission. Zelensky believes that Russia's violent actions are meant to coerce Ukraine into making unacceptable compromises, including surrendering territories like Crimea. Zelensky's stance is firm. Any potential ceasefire must be conditional on Russia halting its occupation of Ukrainian territories, particularly Crimea. He also condemned the lack of strong international sanctions against Russia's aggression, arguing that the global response has been insufficient in addressing Moscow's continued escalation. For Zelensky, this war isn't just about defending Ukraine. It's about preserving the principles of sovereignty and justice on the global stage. International reactions. French President Emmanuel Macron joined other Western leaders in condemning the Russian attacks. Macron called out Putin for his hypocrisy, pointing out that while Putin claims to want peace, he continues to launch deadly attacks on Ukrainian civilians. Macron's strong words emphasized the growing frustration in Europe with Russia's ongoing aggression. Across the Atlantic, other Western nations, including the US, voiced their concerns and called for stronger measures to stop Russia's military campaign. The international community has been pushing for more robust sanctions and for NATO to take a more active role in containing the conflict. However, many question whether these measures are enough to bring about real change on the ground. In sum, while Trump pushes for negotiations and a change in approach, Zelensky stands firm on Ukraine's territorial integrity, and international leaders are demanding stronger action to end Russia's aggression. The battle for Kyiv is not just a military struggle but a diplomatic one that will shape the future of Ukraine and international relations for years to come. Humanitarian situation and impact on civilians. Fear and panic in Kyiv. In the early morning hours, air raid sirens blared across Kyiv for 6 straight hours, sending residents into a state of panic. The sounds of missile strikes were constant, and the streets quickly emptied as people rushed to find safety in shelters. For the people of Kyiv, this wasn't just another alarm, it was a desperate fight for survival. Families were torn between fear for their loved ones and the uncertainty of whether they would make it through the day. It's a nightmare scenario that has become all too familiar to the people of Ukraine. In these moments of chaos, many expressed their terror not only for themselves but for their families. With no way to know where the next missile would strike, residents felt utterly powerless. The ongoing attacks left them questioning whether they would ever feel safe in their own homes again. Rescue efforts and search for survivors. As the dust settled, the real work began. Rescue teams from across Ukraine mobilized to search for survivors trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, reported that rescue operations were proceeding under immense pressure. However, the scale of destruction meant that the work could only be done manually, as the risk of using heavy machinery could harm any survivors still buried beneath the wreckage. This effort is a race against time. As the hours tick by, each moment counts in the fight to save lives. Emergency crews, along with trained search dogs, are combing through the debris, hoping to pull out anyone still alive. It's a grim, relentless task that highlights just how fragile the situation has become for the people of Kyiv. For the residents of this city, every day is a struggle to survive. The human cost of this war is undeniable, and for those left behind, the impact is felt with every siren, every bomb, and every life lost. Debate over peace talks. Trump versus Zelensky. Trump and Zelensky on peace. Former President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have been at odds over the approach to peace talks with Russia. Trump has been vocal about his belief that Zelensky's stance, particularly his refusal to concede Crimea to Russia, is a major roadblock to negotiations. According to Trump, Ukraine should be willing to make compromises and sit down with Russia to end the war. Trump argues that such negotiations could lead to a quick peace settlement. On the other hand, Zelensky strongly disagrees with this approach. He maintains that recognizing Russia's control over Crimea is simply unacceptable. For Ukraine, surrendering Crimea would go against its constitution and compromise the country's sovereignty. Zelensky's position is clear. Ukraine cannot be forced to give up its territory in order to secure peace. Challenges in negotiating peace. As peace talks continue, there are deep divisions within the U.S. government regarding how to proceed. Senior U.S. officials have revealed that significant disagreements remain about the structure of any potential peace deal. One of the major sticking points is whether a ceasefire should be implemented first or if the terms of the agreement should focus on other aspects, like territorial concessions. This ongoing conflict of opinions reveals just how complicated achieving a peaceful resolution is. The U.S. is caught between pushing for a quick ceasefire to halt the violence and respecting Ukraine's right to defend its borders and maintain its sovereignty. These disagreements highlight the complex nature of international diplomacy when national pride and territorial integrity are at stake. Russia's military strategy and tactics. Russian offensive strategy. Russia has claimed responsibility for carrying out a major offensive targeting Ukraine's military, industrial, and critical infrastructure. The Russian Ministry of Defense insists that these strikes are focused on weakening Ukraine's ability to fight back. However, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Many of Russia's missile strikes have hit residential areas, causing significant civilian casualties and widespread destruction. The attacks have not only decimated Ukraine's military resources but also left countless innocent civilians in their wake, underscoring the brutal nature of this conflict. Russia's strategy appears to be one of overwhelming force, attempting to cripple Ukraine's ability to defend itself while spreading fear and chaos in its cities. Russia's alliance with North Korea. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has raised concerns about the potential use of North Korean missiles in Russia's ongoing attacks. If verified, this would signal a deeper military collaboration between Russia and North Korea, particularly in the supply of weapons. This alliance highlights the increasing desperation of Russia as it seeks to strengthen its war machine amid Western sanctions and limited resources. The use of North Korean-made missiles would mark a significant step in the partnership between the two nations, further complicating the situation on the global stage. The growing ties between Russia and North Korea could also embolden other rogue states to provide support to Russia, allowing it to continue its aggression against Ukraine with even more firepower. For Ukraine, this partnership raises the stakes of the war, as it faces not only Russia but also the possibility of weapons supplied by one of the world's most isolated and heavily sanctioned regimes. The future of the conflict, challenges and hopes for peace. Despite significant intervention from Western nations and efforts to push for negotiations, the path to peace remains blocked by deep divisions over key issues like Crimea and ceasefire conditions. Both Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky have emphasized how difficult it will be to resolve this war. Trump believes that a peaceful resolution is possible, but only if all parties are willing to come to the table and make compromises. On the other hand, Zelensky remains firm, stating that Ukraine cannot accept losing territory, especially Crimea, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. The ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia is a complex and tense situation, with no clear end in sight. International reactions will play a crucial role in shaping the future of the region. While the West continues to support Ukraine with sanctions and military aid, the risk of further escalation looms large, especially as Russia strengthens its alliance with nations like North Korea. One of the biggest challenges is finding common ground for a ceasefire. The stakes are high, and both sides have their own demands that are difficult to reconcile. For Ukraine, it's about preserving sovereignty and territorial integrity. For Russia, it's about achieving strategic objectives without facing defeat. As the world watches, the possibility of peace remains uncertain, but hope isn't lost. If both sides can find the political will to negotiate and make tough decisions, there's still a chance to end the bloodshed. However, the future of this conflict will depend on the actions of key international players and the ability of Ukraine and Russia to overcome their most significant disagreements. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing crisis.